The New York Times Today Briefing, March 27, 2026. Today's coverage by the New York Times focuses on global political maneuvering, business expansion, and cultural reflection. In international politics and business, the Trump family's global deal-making map has expanded once again, with business feelers reaching into Transylvania, drawing significant market attention. Meanwhile, the Danish elections have commenced. All eyes in European politics are on whether the female politician who rose to fame by confronting Trump can secure a breakthrough. Regarding cultural and social issues, a statue of Christopher Columbus was officially inaugurated on the White House lawn, a move that has once again touched the sensitive nerves of historical legacy and symbolic politics. Additionally, fashion veteran Jay Manuel published an in-depth commentary reflecting on his past career with Tyra Banks, exploring the shifting values of the industry. Finally, a profile on the man who goes everywhere offers a profound humanistic perspective on the spirit of exploration in extreme environments. In summary, today's reports ranging from the statue controversy at the White House to business layouts in Eastern Europe, and from Nordic election storms to self-deconstruction in the fashion world showcase the complex intertwining of power, capital, and culture in contemporary society. The Washington Post Today Focus, March 27, 2026. The core reporting of the Washington Post today centers on political turmoil in Hungary, U.S. foreign policy maneuvering, and major shifts within domestic public health and cultural institutions. In international politics, Hungary is embroiled in a Russian interference scandal. Newly disclosed classified information suggests that Russia proposed manipulating the Hungarian elections by faking an assassination attempt to ensure an advantage for pro-Russian forces. This has triggered a fierce backlash from the Hungarian opposition. Viktor Orban's primary rival has publicly accused this alleged Russian backchannel of treason and vowed to launch a full investigation. In U.S. domestic politics and policy, a struggle over foreign policy direction is unfolding within the MAGA camp. Republican Joe Kent explicitly stated his hope that Trump hears the voices of supporters who oppose a war with Iran, reflecting internal conservative divisions over interventionism. Meanwhile, as the CDC prepares for a new leader, observers are closely watching three potential candidates who will have to navigate increasingly difficult vaccine politics. In the cultural sphere, the Kennedy Center has officially initiated a layoff plan as it faces a 2-year closure for renovations. This move has shaken the American cultural community, marking a painful period of transition for the national landmark. Summary *: Today's news reflects the shadow of geopolitical interference looming over Europe, while the U.S. undergoes profound adjustments and challenges regarding foreign policy orientation, public health leadership, and the survival of cultural institutions. The Wall Street Journal Today Briefing, Multidimensional Observations on Job Resilience and Social Mobility, March 27, 2026. In the current complex and volatile economic environment, structural changes in the labor market and the evolution of personal wealth paths have become focal points. The healthcare industry is emerging as a core pillar of the U.S. job market, with its robust demand for personnel acting as a critical ballast while other sectors fluctuate. Simultaneously, workplace evaluation standards are shifting. An in-depth survey of over 1,700 companies reveals that corporate culture and professional growth opportunities have become core metrics for measuring the best employers. At the level of social class and lifestyle, American society presents a diverse picture of mobility. The struggle for upward mobility of 5 ordinary Americans reveals the hardships and opportunities on the road to the middle class. Meanwhile, the rise of stealth wealth demonstrates a new post-pandemic norm for wealth accumulation: individuals who do not seek fame but exert unprecedented influence in economic activities. Furthermore, social mindsets are undergoing subtle shifts. The once popular nomadic lifestyle is seeing a return to roots, as couples who lived on the road for a decade begin to settle down, reflecting a re-evaluation of stability and community belonging amidst long-term uncertainty. Overall, from the resilience of healthcare employment to the chronicles of middle-class struggle, today's reports sketch a societal picture of seeking balance and class transition amid change. FT Daily Briefing, Geopolitical Maneuvering and Market Anomalies, March 27, 2026. Today's Financial Times focuses on drastic shifts in the global geopolitical landscape and their profound impact on financial markets. In energy markets, a massive bet suspected of insider trading has drawn scrutiny. Before Trump posted social media comments regarding Iran negotiations, traders positioned $580 million in oil call options, the precise market entry has prompted regulators to question potential information leaks. Geopolitical fronts remain tense. Facing the soaring costs of the war in Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin has urged donations from domestic oligarchs to fund the national budget, indicating that Russian fiscal pressure has reached a breaking point. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate is planning sanctions against Hungary to punish its obstruction of EU aid to Ukraine. A surprise turn has emerged in diplomacy. The U.S. is considering inviting Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko to the White House. This potential icebreaking move is seen as a major attempt by the West to drive a wedge into the Russia-Belarus alliance and reshape the geopolitical map of Eastern Europe. In technology and cross-border regulation, the Chinese government is reviewing the $2 billion sale of the startup Manus to Meta. Currently, the founder of Manus has been restricted from leaving the country, reflecting the increasingly stringent national security reviews facing the cross-border flow of core technological assets. The Guardian Today Focus, March 27, 2026. Today's Guardian coverage spans legal rulings, geopolitical mysteries, social warmth, and cultural reflection. In Law and Corporate Responsibility, tech giant Meta was found liable in cases involving child exploitation and ordered to pay a massive $375 million in damages. Meanwhile, in the geopolitical sphere, experts noted that recent betting on a US-Iran ceasefire showed clear signs of insider trading, raising concerns about the leak of diplomatic secrets. Regarding social welfare, reports focus on the complex emotions of conflict and reconciliation. In Memphis, facing community panic caused by ICE operations, 130 residents spontaneously organized to deliver food to trapped neighbors, showcasing the power of grassroots mutual aid. In Personal Narratives, an in-depth article on a Palestinian father-daughter relationship explores how historical trauma becomes an insurmountable rift between family members. In Cultural Life, renowned musician Moby, while sharing his honest playlist, offered sharp criticism of the song Lola by the classic rock band The Kinks, stating the lyrics shocked and repulsed him, prompting a public re-examination of past pop culture values. In summary, today's news reflects broad social changes from macro-legal regulation to micro-individual emotions, highlighting the central role of justice and human compassion in complex situations. Briefing, Global Dynamics and Social Observations, March 27, 2026. The international situation and social discourse today present a complex, intertwined state. In the geopolitical arena, the situation in the Middle East is the core focus. According to the Times of Israel, Trump has proposed a 15-point plan aimed at ending the war, but Israel remains cautious, fearing it may ultimately devolve into a short-term one-month ceasefire. Meanwhile, the UK is planning to lead an international coalition to clear and secure navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, showing high international concern for strategic stability in key waters. On the cultural and social level, hate speech and the changing times have sparked wide discussion. Actor Papa Esidu recently went public about the extreme online abuse he faced, including death threats, after appearing in Harry Potter-related works, sounding an alarm about the deteriorating online environment. Additionally, various commentaries point out that society is at a challenging turning point, whether it is the higher education sector's active response to signals of the times or community anxiety over signs of social regression. These reflect a deep public desire for order and humanistic care during turbulent times. Overall, from geopolitical maneuvering to individual experiences of cyberbullying, today's news outlines a microcosm of an era seeking peace amidst conflict and reflecting on civilization amidst chaos. Briefing, Overview of Global Dynamics and Social Hotspots, March 27, 2026. Today's international situation and social issues show multidimensional volatility. Geopolitically, Iran has explicitly refused peace negotiations with the Trump administration, accusing its negotiators of backstabbing and breach of faith. Affected by this tension and the uncertainty of war, global financial markets fluctuated, with Wall Street stocks generally falling while international oil prices continued to climb due to supply concerns. In social and cultural spheres, controversial events have triggered chain reactions. The chair of the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at Alton Little Theatre announced their resignation following a controversy involving Eric Sykes. Meanwhile, Dave Davies of the legendary band The Kinks reflected on the classic Lola, noting how times have changed and pointing out that the term transphobia did not exist when the song was written, sparking discussion on the evolution of cultural contexts. In public health, environmental safety remains a local focus. Georgia officials confirmed that while PFAS levels in other parts of the state have exceeded EPA standards, the drinking water system in Macon currently remains within safe limits. Overall, today's information centers on the economic chain reactions triggered by geopolitical deadlocks and the challenges faced by the cultural and public safety sectors under revolving social standards. Briefing, Global Dynamics Overview, March 27, 2026. Today, Le Monde and related media focus on geopolitical conflicts, international human rights controversies, and cross-sector business collaborations. Regarding the Ukraine crisis, President Zelensky issued a stern warning, stating that international pressure on Russia has fallen far short of expectations. He emphasized that not only the US but also Europe shows significant deficiencies in sanction intensity and strategic support, calling for Western allies to take more decisive action to turn the tide of the war. The situation in the Middle East and Africa is equally grim. A UN special rapporteur released a report accusing Israel of systematic torture of Palestinians, drawing high international attention to human rights. Meanwhile, investigations revealed the complex drivers behind the Sudanese civil war, with the UAE accused of recalibrating its weapon supply networks to continue supporting Sudanese paramilitaries. In European politics, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni faces a new turning point in her leadership following a failed referendum. This setback not only marks a hurdle for her political agenda but also suggests her term is entering a new phase of uncertainty. The business and culture sector saw a bright crossover. Fragrance brand Le Monde Gourmand announced an exclusive partnership with Disney to launch a perfume collection inspired by Alice in Wonderland, deeply integrating a classic literary IP with modern consumer aesthetics. Summary *: Today's news presents a sharp contrast. While the global political map is unsettled by war, human rights disputes, and political shifts, the commercial market continues to see cultural resonance and consumer growth through creative collaborations. El País Special Briefing, Survival Dilemmas and Institutional Reflections, March 27, 2026. This briefing focuses on the deep struggle between individual rights, geopolitics, and social institutions. In the realm of individual rights, Noelia Castillo's legal battle for the right to die has garnered widespread attention. This young woman expressed a definitive break from family ties during a long struggle with her relatives, pushing the autonomy of personal life and ethical dilemmas into the public eye. Meanwhile, the survival situation for Afghan women is increasingly dire, restricted by Taliban decrees. Some expectant mothers have been denied entry to hospitals for lacking a male escort, forcing them to give birth at hospital gates. Extreme policies directly threatening the lives of local women. Regarding institutions and social change, author Leah Epi offered a sharp diagnosis of the era, arguing that capitalism and the nation-state are the two core challenges of the 21st century. This macro reflection is mirrored at the micro level in Cuba. Due to fuel shortages, Cuba is experiencing a bicycle boom, with citizens forced back to cycling, demonstrating survival resilience in the face of resource scarcity. Additionally, the debate over former U.S. President Trump's mental health continues to heat up. External evaluations are extremely polarized, with one side viewing him as a textbook pathological personality and the other hailing him as a Superman president. This controversy is not just about personal traits but reflects the profound fractures in contemporary political discourse. In summary, from the survival crisis in Afghanistan to the transportation shift in Cuba, and from individual life and death choices to great power politics, global society is at a critical intersection of institutional reflection and the reconstruction of rights. Briefing, Core Dynamics Overview from FAZ, March 27, 2026. Today, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, FAZ, covers a multidimensional perspective ranging from German domestic political shifts to international geopolitics, finance, and culture. In German domestic politics, the results of the Rhineland-Palatinate state elections have been announced. The CDU performed strongly, celebrating a victory for the first time in years, a win seen as a major signal of the shifting German local political landscape. In international and geopolitical spheres, the EU enlargement process has hit a snag. Proposals by Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama and Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić for accelerated integration into the EU were explicitly rejected by relevant parties, showing that the path to EU membership for the Western Balkans remains complex. Meanwhile, against the backdrop of global instability, German citizens' Easter holiday choices have changed significantly. Due to war risks, the Canary Islands are replacing Dubai as a popular destination. In finance and culture, FAZ, along with international media like the Financial Times, spoke highly of the deal involving Poste Italiane and Telecom Italia, considering it of great strategic significance. Additionally, FAZ focused on transnational cultural exchange, highlighting the brilliant debut of Pakistani pianist Usman Anis in Dubai. Overall, today's reports reflect a European society undergoing profound adjustments, from political power restructuring to shifts in consumer behavior, amidst a volatile international environment. Briefing, International and German News Overview, March 27, 2026. Today, German and international discourse focuses on political elections, financial risks, and economic cooperation. In Germany, the state elections in Rhineland-Palatinate (RP) have entered a critical stage, with SZ.de providing real-time in-depth analysis of district results. Election trends have become the political focus. Meanwhile, the Munich mayoral runoff is imminent, with forecast data sparking intense public discussion over the eventual winner. In the economic and financial sectors, global financial safety warnings have escalated. Experts point out that the expansion of shadow banking is pushing the world toward the brink of a new financial collapse, requiring urgent regulatory attention. In international trade, the potential impact of the EU-Australia trade agreement is a hot topic, as stakeholders assess its strategic value for resource access and market entry. Furthermore, consumer market research shows that the Payback app, with its points reward mechanism, has been rated by users as the most valuable mobile app and a top loyalty program, demonstrating strong vitality in the digital consumer sector. Briefing, China Daily News Summary, March 27, 2026. Today's China Daily focuses on cultural heritage, international geopolitics, sports, and public health. In culture and Silk Road cooperation, a cultural landmark in Uzbekistan, built with the help of Chinese enterprises, was officially inaugurated in Tashkent, becoming a new hub for showcasing national culture in Central Asia. Meanwhile, traditional silk weaving techniques are being revitalized by modern inheritors, demonstrating the enduring vitality of Silk Road cultural heritage. In international commentary, an article provides an in-depth analysis of the United States' recent new gamble in global strategy, warning of the geopolitical risks and uncertainties brought by its unilateralist policies. In sports, Chinese tennis star Zheng Qinwen achieved a tenacious comeback victory to advance to the fourth round of the Miami Open, where she will face a top-tier showdown against Aryna Sabalenka, drawing widespread attention. Additionally, addressing the growing pressure of modern society and the overuse of electronic devices, health experts are calling on the public to prioritize sleep quality in a fast-paced life to meet physical and mental health challenges. Briefing, Yomiuri Shimbun News Summary, March 27, 2026. Today's Yomiuri Shimbun focuses on Japan's macroeconomic trends, corporate strategies, and public opinion. In the economic sector, the Japanese labor market released positive signals, with average monthly salaries hitting a record high for the fourth consecutive year. However, facing persistent inflationary pressure, Amuva economists have publicly called on the Prime Minister to strengthen communication with the market to ensure the effective implementation of fiscal policy. Poll data shows significant public dissatisfaction with the government's measures to handle rising prices, with an approval rate of only 30%. In contrast, 69% of respondents viewed the Takaichi-Trump talks positively, reflecting public expectations for strengthened Japan-US diplomatic relations. In business and natural sciences, the sports brand ASICS is accelerating its overseas layout, aiming to achieve a $100 million sales target in Southeast Asia as soon as possible. Furthermore, Japan's natural science community saw a major breakthrough, confirming a new bird species domestically for the first time in 45 years, adding an important chapter to biodiversity research. Asahi Shimbun Briefing, March 27, 2026. The international situation and economic dynamics today present multiple turning points. In diplomacy and geopolitics, Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi returned home after concluding a summit with U.S. President Trump, facing severe challenges. Regarding the current Iran conflict, Takaichi explicitly told Trump during the talks that Japan's role in a war would be strictly limited due to Article 9 of the Constitution. Meanwhile, as Trump hinted that the war with Iran might end, Asian stock markets generally rebounded, and market sentiment improved. In technology and business, Japanese space startup Escalates announced that its NASA-sponsored moon landing plan will be delayed until 2030 due to multiple factors. In sports business crossover, Uniqlo officially obtained the naming rights for the Dodger Stadium field, the first time the stadium has introduced a field sponsor in its history, marking the further expansion of Japanese brand influence in the international sports market. The Sydney Morning Herald Today Briefing, March 27, 2026. Today's Sydney Morning Herald focuses on global political volatility, unexpected breakthroughs in arts and culture, and profound humanistic care. In international politics and economics, Trump's policy directions have triggered widespread concern. Commentaries point out that Trump's arrogance and uncertainty in decision-making have pushed the global situation to the edge, with a lack of policy logic deeply unsettling the international community. Meanwhile, the border wall project is not just a political symbol but has evolved into a massive profit chain. Reports indicate the project has directly led to the birth of a billionaire family, prompting public scrutiny of policy-driven wealth accumulation. In culture and lifestyle, famous British actor Bill Nighy's foray into podcasting has become a focal point. Despite his initial resistance, his podcast became an unexpected hit, turning into a current cultural phenomenon. Additionally, an in-depth article on urban life resonated with readers, as the authors shared how 3 years of living in Sydney completely reshaped their worldview and life trajectory, showcasing the profound impact of urban culture on individual growth. Today's paper also published an obituary for Susanna Chandler, expressing the community's mourning for the Sydney resident. From macro-global maneuvering to micro-individual narratives, today's content showcases the intertwining of power, art, and humanity in a complex era. The Globe and Mail Today Focus Briefing, March 27, 2026. Today's Globe and Mail focuses deeply on social well-being, economic leadership, and public challenges in the post-pandemic era. In social observation, the secret behind Finland's consecutive years at the top of the global happiness rankings has sparked discussion. Commentaries suggest that Finnish happiness stems not from a deliberate pursuit of joy, but from a peaceful, not forcing it mindset and deep trust in social institutions. Meanwhile, an article reflects on how people often overlook the natural and cultural wonders around them, calling for a re-evaluation and appreciation of local resources. Regarding youth development, the latest research reveals a worrying trend. The proportion of kindergarten children showing developmental vulnerability has risen significantly since the pandemic, highlighting the profound impact of long-term social isolation on early childhood cognitive and social skills. In economy and policy, ATCO Group CEO Nancy Southern has taken a tough leadership stance, preparing to fight for corporate space through hardball competition in the current challenging business environment. Meanwhile, warning voices regarding financial regulation have emerged, with columnists strongly calling to block prediction market gambling from entering Canada, arguing such speculative behavior would negatively impact socioeconomic stability. From Nordic happiness philosophy to local social governance, today's reports remind us that while pursuing economic growth, we must be vigilant against the erosion of social structures by technical risks and strengthen our focus on the physical and mental health of the next generation. Briefing, Australian Multi-Sector Dynamics Overview, March 27, 2026. Today, Australia presents diverse dynamics in international diplomacy, legal regulation, sports events, and media ethics. In diplomacy and politics, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen delivered an important speech to the Australian Parliament, emphasizing the strategic consensus between the EU and Australia on maintaining a rules-based international order and deepening economic cooperation. Meanwhile, members of both the Australian Senate and House of Representatives participated in an international conference on human rights, where Maryam Rajavi delivered a speech calling for attention to democratic values, reflecting the Australian Parliament's ongoing involvement in international human rights affairs. In law and industry standards, regulators recently took strict action against violations of marketing codes. A company was hit with a six-figure fine for failing to provide an effective unsubscribe mechanism, sending a strong signal for the strengthening of consumer privacy protection. Simultaneously, the media industry is embroiled in ethical controversy. The Guardian revealed internal divisions within Murdoch-owned media over the reporting stance of a podcast by The Australian. A public statement by a sexual assault survivor has triggered deep public discussion on the boundaries of media reporting and the protection of victim rights. In sports and culture, the Formula One Australian Grand Prix is once again in the spotlight. With its unique track design and enthusiastic atmosphere, the event not only consolidates its special status in international motorsport but also continues to drive local tourism and cultural vitality. In summary, Australia is seeking balanced development in a complex global environment by strengthening international cooperation, strictly regulating industries, and reflecting on media responsibility. Today Briefing, The Straits Times News Summary, March 27, 2026. In today's news cycle, the policy directions of the Trump administration have become a focal point for many. In education, the U.S. government is intensifying compliance investigations, with Harvard University once again a primary target. Simultaneously, a special investigation into the admissions policies of certain medical schools has been launched, showing the authorities' strong intervention in higher education equity and admission mechanisms. In international diplomacy and security, despite stern warnings of war risks, Trump has officially opened negotiations with Iran, attempting to seek a diplomatic breakthrough amidst tensions. In aviation safety, a harrowing report emerged of a United Airlines passenger plane having a near miss with a Black Hawk helicopter, raising concerns about the safety of airspace management. Additionally, in sports business, the owner of San Diego FC publicly stated that Egyptian star Mohamed Salah would be a valuable asset to the club, expressing a strong desire to bring him on board. Briefing, Core Dynamics Overview from The Hindu, March 27, 2026. Today's coverage by The Hindu spans biomedical technological innovation, geopolitical conflict, and international social justice, showcasing deep observations from the technological frontier to global situations. In technology and ethics, the Biopharma Shakti initiative has become a focus. The project is dedicated to revolutionizing biopharmaceutical processes through non-animal models, such as organs-on-chips and computational simulations, aiming to improve drug R&D efficiency and address the ethical and accuracy limitations of traditional animal testing, signaling a transformation of the biopharma industry toward more scientific and humane directions. Regarding geopolitical commentary, this paper expressed severe concern over the international situation. An editorial on the Trump-Iran war risk pointedly described his foreign policy as characterized by cowardly bullying, criticizing the oscillation between maximum pressure and military threats for exacerbating Middle East instability. Meanwhile, regarding the blockade of Cuba, reports noted that long-term economic strangulation policies are seriously threatening the island nation's survival and development, calling for international attention to its humanitarian crisis. Furthermore, media ecology and cultural dynamics were highlighted. The report analyzed Tucker Carlson's influence as a U.S. conservative voice on international public opinion. In the cultural sphere, a Hindu organization successfully converted a large office building in New Jersey into a center of worship, marking the further integration and expansion of Hindu culture in overseas communities. Summary *. Today's news reflects the struggle between technological progress, non-animal models, and archaic political methods, economic blockades and military threats, in a globalized context. While technology strives to break through ethical dilemmas, geopolitical tensions remain a key variable restricting global stability. Briefing, U.S.-Iran situation escalates sharply, 48-hour ultimatum for Strait of Hormuz. On March 27, 2026, U.S.-Iran tensions have reached an extremely dangerous tipping point. The Trump administration recently issued a tough 48-hour ultimatum, demanding that Iran ensure absolute passage through the Strait of Hormuz and threatening that if demands are not met, the U.S. military will directly strike power plants within Iran. In response, Iran quickly issued a reciprocal warning, stating that if its power facilities are attacked by the U.S. or Israel, Iran will immediately strike energy sites across the Middle East in retaliation. At the diplomatic level, both sides are mired in a severe crisis of trust and cognitive maneuvering. Although the U.S. claims the two sides are communicating, Tehran has flatly denied this and slammed the U.S. ceasefire proposal as extremely expansionist and unrealistic. Analysts point out that Trump's shifting signals on the Iran issue reflect a certain uncertainty in U.S. strategy. This dual-track approach of maximum pressure and vague diplomacy is pushing the regional situation to the brink of full-scale conflict. Currently, the international community is closely watching the situation following the 48-hour deadline, as the stability of energy markets faces a severe test.